EQ-101. Starting in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, I wanted to talk to you today about emotional intelligence, EQ-101, the very basics of how emotional intelligence what it can do for you and your world. So I'd like to go through what is emotional intelligence and have some specific things to talk to you about that you can put to use right away, right after this video, and have some more awareness of what emotional intelligence is all about. So here we go. First thing is, it's very good news. This is fairly new technology or new information, and we're finding that EQ is actually changing the world from the inside out. If you haven't heard of emotional intelligence, you will. Emotional intelligence basically is just about being smart about your feelings, about your heart, about your mind, about your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, what's going on inside of you. Because the reality is that no matter what's happening outside of us, we have control over what's happening inside of us. And that's a wonderful thing. It gives us power and control over our lives, and gives us the ability to manage ourselves as best we can, to be as happy as we can, and to be as successful as we can. So emotional intelligence is a crucial subject. It's not taught in schools, so we have to figure it out on our own, and here's some more information on that. EQ basically is the study of you. Maybe the most interesting subject there is, and also the most practical, because it is with us every day, every minute, every second of every day for the rest of our days. And we can do things with it, we can manage it, we can accept ourselves, we can understand ourselves. And it's always been kind of a big mystery, feelings kind of mushy, kind of airy-fairy stuff, but actually it is very, very practical and has very real applications. So, EQ is also actually an art and a science at the same time. There's a scientific ways that, and I'll explain some of this in a minute, but there's scientific ways of how your brain handles emotions, how it handles our thoughts, how your brain is split between two sides. You've probably seen them, and I'll show you some pictures of them and some fun pictures of them. And it's all very science-based. And it's art-based because it is a creative endeavor. What we do with our feelings is basically totally up to us, and we can handle things in all kinds of different ways and make it very creative and very artistic. It's, like I said, a very, very practical subject because it is with us at all times, and I will show you how it is affecting us in so many different ways. Very, very practical. One of the things I need to tell you, though, is that EQ, it's emotional intelligence, which EQ doesn't, it sounds funny, but EQ, what it is our left brain, is our logical side, and our right brain is our emotional side. Well, you know what IQ is. IQ is the acronym that is about emotional quotient, which is a score, which is a numeric number that has identified how well we can learn things, how well we can learn. Well, that is intellectual. Well, the other side of that is, our other side of our brain is emotional, and that we now can quantify that as well. So there's IQ and there's EQ. So that's why it's called EQ, even though it should be EI. It just seems that people get it better if you talk about emotional intelligence as EQ versus our intellectual intelligence, IQ, our knowledge and our information. So the reality is that every single decision that we make, everything we do, everything we say, everything we write, everything we are, is based on at least one thought and at least one feeling, both. Well, we know pretty well about our thoughts because we learned about those in school, and we talk about those, and we learn about how to get a job, and we learn about information and all kinds of good stuff growing up. But we don't learn that much about how our emotions work. So it ends up being kind of out of balance, our left brain is real strong and powerful, and we're focused there, but our right brain is not so much. So what we're trying to do, the idea is to balance them, is to have both. Use both our thoughts and our feelings, use both our left brain and our right brain in order to make the best decisions, to get information that our body's trying to give us. It is the way that we we can calm ourselves when we get too excited. We can also add emotion to things when we get too intellectual. Too much IQ is a bad thing. Too little IQ is a bad thing. Too much EQ is a bad thing. Too little EQ is a bad thing. So it's about balance. So we'd say IQ plus EQ equals a little smiley face, you can see. So just a little bit about me. My name's Matt Perlstein. I called it EQ Dude, not the EQ Dude, but just an EQ Dude, because you can be an EQ dude or dudette also. It's not exclusive to me. I just am one. So what happened is, growing up, I didn't learn very much about my emotions, and I wasn't very good at them, and I had a tough childhood. It was painful. But what I found is that I thought there was a bunch of stuff wrong with me, but what I found is that I really just had no clue how to deal with my emotions. So once I found that out, and I found that most people didn't know how to deal with their emotions, and I talked to people, and I talked to my parents, and I talked to others, and I found that most people don't know how to deal with them. Most people have never heard of emotional intelligence, even though you use it all day, every day. And so here I am, jumping up and down about how important emotions are, and that our thoughts and our emotions are kind of the key to our success, our happiness, and our sanity, if you will. So there are basically 3 steps to emotional intelligence. Kind of like I'm not that smart, so my IQ's not that great, so I like to sum things up and boil it down really, really simply. So the first one is awareness. Awareness means that you have to understand, at least to know what's going on, or you can't make any decisions on things. If you don't know what's happening, you can't do anything about it, right? So it's very, very important that we start with awareness, and that's kind of the basis of this talk, is to make you a little bit more aware of how your feelings work, how your thoughts work, and so you can do more with them. Second is about acceptance. It sounds like a little thing. It sounds like you just, I think that, or I feel that, but it's huge, and I'll go more into depth in each of these. It's kind of the basis of all of this. So that acceptance is required in order to do what you're going to do. You can fight it. A lot of people say, I'm not angry, or I'm not sad, or I don't have any feelings, kind of thing. And that doesn't work all that well. Mostly what works the best is to be able to to become aware that we feel something, and then go, okay, yeah, I feel this. Yes, I'm not fighting it. It's real. It's happening, and I can do something with it. And then third step, once we become aware and we accept that we are where we are, is action, or not. So I like to put it that way, because a lot of times we need to do something with our feelings, and we do something with our thoughts, maybe, but the or not part is also critical, because a lot of times doing nothing is a very valid action. There are times when we feel things strongly, or we have a thought and we can act on it, and we maybe shouldn't. Maybe it's not a good idea. So it's probably a better idea to not do that. But once we are aware of things, then we can take some action to do something about them. If we have feelings that we don't care for, we can do something about them. Even trauma, even huge, awful feelings, we now can do something with those, and heal and move on and let go and replace our feelings with our negative feelings with positive feelings, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of actions we can take, and I'll talk more about all these later. But awareness, acceptance, action. So first, awareness. Hello. let's start with you with a short quiz. So, and the quiz is it's only 7 seconds. It's just you rating your behavior or your feelings, and it's about how do you deal with your feelings and emotions. So go get a pen and pencil, if you would, or pull up a document or pull up a Facebook message and address it to me, and then you can write in there, and then you can send it to me later if you like. Be happy to talk to you. So we're going to take a little 7 questions, and you just rate yourself. You just need to add up these numbers, okay, so that you can go through it. So we can't make any logical decisions based on things we're not aware of. It's kind of like duh, but we're becoming aware here. So rate yourself 1 to 5. The first one is awareness. When your body feels something like fear or anger or sadness or shame or guilt or whatever it is, how do you notice? How do you notice? Do you notice? Are you just kind of clueless and you figure it out later? Do other people have to tell you and you go, oh wow? Or are you on it? You know what you're feeling most of the time, right? So rate yourself 1 to 5, and so remember that number: 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. 1 is I have no idea, no clue whatsoever. 5 is I know exactly what I'm feeling almost all the time, right now. 1 to 5. Okay, got that number? 2, identification. Okay, when you start feeling something, can you tell what it is? All right, a lot of times people mix up their feelings, mostly because we don't really even have the language sometimes, because when we didn't learn about it in school, we didn't talk about it with our parents or anybody. Sometimes feelings, our negative feelings especially, are not socially acceptable, and we can't talk about them to anybody ever. And so we don't know what the heck they are. It's little kids are feeling all this stuff and they don't know what they don't know, right? They don't know that what this is even called. So a lot of times people mix up things like fear and anger are often mixed up. For example, like road rage, or somebody cuts you off in the car and you're like, you da-da-da. Well, actually right before that, you probably felt, and then like that, right? And there's a fear underneath it. And we need to be able to separate those in order to identify them. So how are you on that? Can you tell what you're feeling? Can you separate them? Can you name what you're feeling? Name it to tame it, we call it. So again, 1 through 5, put that number down, add it to the one above it, or do that, wait till the end. 3rd, acceptance. So, okay, I'm afraid. Okay, I'm sad. Okay, I'm kind of depressed today. Okay, is that okay with you? Can you understand what you're okay with what's happening? Can you be okay with yourself? Because a lot of times if you're not okay with your feelings, you're trying to be something you're not, and you're trying to force something that it's not. So how are you okay? Do you accept yourself and what you're feeling? 1 through 5. Okay, that's question 3. 4, once you do realize what you're feeling, can you express it? I'm not saying you should every time. Not always a good idea. But can you get it across? Can you describe what you're feeling to yourself first, and maybe to somebody else, so they can understand who you are and what you're going through? Can you express stuff? When you're upset and you're really upset, can you express that in a way that releases it? How are you on expressing it, as opposed to stuffing it and bottling up inside of you? 1 through 5. Another rating. Next, once you feel something and it's a strong feeling and it's probably something you don't like, can you let go of it, or do you hang on to it for a long time? Do you get mad at somebody and you don't like them forever, and you're not forgiven and you're pissed, right? Can you release? Can you let go? Can you have something take place in your body and then let it go? How are you on that? 1 through 5. Next, okay, so now that you let go of something, is it just an emptiness? What's there? Or can you take that space or that once you let go of something, can you build back up with, oh, okay, all right, I took that, it didn't go well, I let go of it, and now I'm okay again. Kind of like little kids when they get their, we're born with really high EQ. When we're born, when something happens and we're mad or we're sad or we're hungry or we're messy or whatever it is, a lot of times kids don't hang on to it. Only us adults hang on to it. They're upset for a little while. The feeling goes through, and then they can let it go, and they go back to being pretty naturally happy. We're born with pretty darn high EQ, and then it's kind of downhill from there. So, how good are you at replacing your positive or your negative feelings with positives, or the other way around? Can you do you have a positive feeling and you end up replacing it with the negatives? Anyway. So, replacing 1 through 5. How did that go? And last, how well do you encourage and respect your feelings? Can you compliment yourself and go, you know what, that was pretty good. Yep, yeah, I felt that, I let it go, I processed it on through, and now I'm back to being okay. Can you celebrate that and enjoy that part of you? We call it rejoice, and it's release, replace, rejoice in that order. So, again, 1 through 5, and that's it. So here we are, the top 5. So add up top 7. Add up those numbers, the 7 that you just did, and add them up. The total possible is 35. So all 5s all the way along. So how'd you do? Are you fully aware? Can you, if you did 25 to 35, I'm saying that's pretty darn excellent. You're pretty much in touch with your feelings. You have good control over them. You have good flow, and you can move around with them, and you can accept yourself and how you are, that sort of thing. So that's pretty good. I'd say, how'd you learn that? And please share. I'd like to know. Other people need to know. How do we deal with this stuff? So that's great. If you're somewhere in the middle, 15 to 25-ish, that's pretty good. You have some things to learn. Hopefully this is going to help you. But you figured out some things. A lot of times we aren't taught this stuff, so if we did figure out, if we do have pretty decent EQ, it's probably because we figured it out on our own, and probably in the school of hard knocks, which is a very painful way to learn. One of the reasons I'm doing this is because we do, it was painful for me because I didn't know, and maybe for you, you can learn a few things and not have to go through too much pain and have to figure it all out by smashing into things and, oh, that hurt, oh, that was terrible, oh, that didn't go well, I don't think I'll do that again, that kind of thing. Some people figure stuff out, some people never do. So how are you on that one? And if you're way down in the under 15, yikes. Try and find out what you can about emotional intelligence. You're probably hurting, cowboy, or you're completely shut down. You're not accepting yourself. You're not able to identify and move through your feelings and process them on through. So you got some work to do if you're way down in there. So anyway, write it down, send it to me if you like, and we'll see if we can help you improve that. Okay? So here's how it works. I'm going to take a breath here. Left brain, right brain. Left brain is cognitive. I'll show you some pictures of them. Right brain is your emotional passion, creativity. Your senses are stuck in your right brain. The pictures, sounds, smells, taste, all that stuff happens in your right brain. Your left brain is information, logic, sequential processing. Boom, 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 boom. Right brain is a little more creative, right? A lot more creative. So there's only 3 things we need to deal with. Our left brain, what are our thoughts, our right brain, our feelings, and our body. And our body tells us a lot of things. Feelings are stored in our body. Feelings are created in our body. And feelings are let go in our body. So we have these 3 different areas that we need to deal with. And that's mostly all. I mean, there's our body, and then there's other people's bodies. So that we need to be aware of in order to have good relationships. But there's kind of breaks down to just those 3 things. Another way to put it is head, heart, hand. Kind of a neat way to remember it. So here's a picture. I should have put this one first, but here's what your brain looks like, and that is an actual brain, an actual spinal column. And she's holding it. Oh, it's wild. This is a beautiful. This is one of the most popular. You guys know what a TED Talk is on YouTube. They're information that are that they describe about whatever you want, whatever they want to. And this is one of the most popular TED Talks in history. Down the bottom is Jill Bolte Taylor talks about how she's a brain scientist and she had a problem with one side of her brain, and she could watch it happen. And she was watching herself lose part of her brain function. And she was still aware of it, and she was writing it down, and then she got it back, and it was pretty amazing for a brain scientist to lose part of their brain function and watch it happen, and then be able to come back and explain it. It's kind of a once in a lifetime thing. And she explains it beautifully and humorously, and so if you can watch this video, but. You get the idea. There's a left brain and a right brain, very definitely, and you see the pieces, the parts in between, the synapses and the mitochondria in between them. Well, it turns out that women actually have quite a bit more of those connections than men do, and so women are biologically better able to handle their feelings because they have the emotion, their thoughts and their feelings in between talk to each other more. All right? We'll talk about that a little bit more in later. But that's what a brain looks like. Very definitely split. So there's your rational brain, right, where your logic lies, and your limbic brain, where you're more of your feelings, and the idea is to get them to talk to each other. Balance. So here's a cool picture of it. Another way to put it. Left is all compartmentalized, not very colorful, in cubicles, right? And you put in boxes when you need to identify things, which is very cool. You need that. And we've worked on that our whole lives. The right brain is the more creative, more colorful, more whatever. So the idea is to get both in order to have a very cool life. Here's another one. It's one of my favorites that shows it even better. Versus, right? So, and here's even more colorful. So you see that your left brain with the logic, analytical, science, control, boom, 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 is all on the left side, and your right brain is about creativity and learning and passion and more free form. Get the idea. So, okay, so I'm going on to the next subject. This is about, did you know that how popular emotional intelligence is now? All right, you may or may not have ever heard of it. Hopefully you're getting the feel for how important it is. But it's been around for quite a while now, and it is taken over. I mean, not taken over, but it's doing fantastic. There's a whole lot going on in the world in emotional intelligence. Most people don't know about it. There isn't any big resource that shows all the things that are happening in the world, but let me give you some examples of what's happening in the world of EQ. So it started in '95 when Dr. Daniel Goleman wrote a book called Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. Your EQ can matter more than IQ. And that book kind of opened a lot of people's eyes. In fact, it became on Time Magazine's top 25 most influential business books of all time. Of all time. Imagine emotions in business becoming such an influential book. That's kind of surprising. I was very surprised. And he says that there's different areas of emotions that have to do with me identifying my own, me being able to manage my own, me being able to identify other people's, and me being able to manage other people's. I'm not managing them, but I'm managing how to deal with them when they're having emotions. And appreciating that my emotions are very, very important to me, and their emotions are very, very important to them. So if you want to have good relationships, please be aware of that it really does matter. So anyway, in business, they now are testing EQ more than IQ. They figure that IQ, if you manage to get through school and graduated and you made it, then you have some amount of IQ at least. But what they really want to know is your EQ, and I'll explain more about that in a minute. Oh, here we go. So For example, Google, Apple, Intel, Oracle, all kinds of companies now are not even bothering to test for IQ much. They test more for EQ. They want to know, can you work on a team? Can you handle commitment? Can you handle disappointment? Can you communicate? Can you learn? Can you handle your frustration when you don't understand? Can you listen to other people? Can you, all that kind of stuff. That's how they're going to be successful. The way Dr. Goldman put it, he works at Google as a consultant for Google. They have their own college for learning whatever interesting subjects. And he said, you know what, you guys, people at Google, as you can imagine, have incredibly high IQs, really high IQ. They, some of the best in the world, right? But he said, okay, check this out. You guys are all super sharp, is the way he put it. But some of you are going to just do fantastic. You're going to become management. You're going to do fabulous in this company. Some of you will do fine and you'll get along just fine. And some of you won't. Some of you will fail. That's just how it's going to be, right? But what's the difference? If we pretty much have the same IQ, what's the difference? Guess what the answer is? EQ, right? And so now they're testing on that even much more than IQ. It's pretty cool. Here's another one. Did you know that there is a Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence? Yale. Did you know there's a school, part of Harvard Medical School works with emotional intelligence, and they do it in a way that, on a global basis. In fact, I can tell you some stories about what they're doing with it. They're pretty amazing, even in politics. UC Berkeley, Oxford, University of Pennsylvania, etc. It's all over. University of Chicago, University of Wisconsin, on and on and on. There are professors in emotional intelligence now. I was surprised. I was very, very surprised with that, and very happy about it because it's catching on, and it's a really important thing. I said the very best is UVA. That was kind of funny because I was doing a presentation for a 5-credit class at University of Virginia as a guest presenter, and so of course I had to say that they were the very best. But the class was called Emotional Intelligence in the Workplace. So there it is, and it's prevalent and it's important. In fact, EQ affects us in many, many different ways. It affects kids in school. They're teaching it in school now. Finally, I didn't learn it in school, and most of you probably didn't. But now they're starting to. There's new regulations to incorporate EQ into K-12 public schools in the United States. Yay! Right? It's called social emotional learning, SEL, and I'll show you about one study here in a minute about how well it's doing. But kids in school, it's affecting families, it's affecting business in big ways, sales, customer service, engagement is a big word these days, loyalty, etc. Human relations, right? All HR is big on emotional intelligence. Criminal justice system, as you can imagine, people that do crimes a lot of times are not handling their emotions well. We had example recently of guys like in Las Vegas. Guy was mad at people, so what do? Go and shoot a bunch of them. Come on, that's one way to handle your anger, but that's not a good way to handle your anger. You can imagine some of his role models and his lack of training he thought that was a good way to handle it. Whatever. But that's why we need to teach kids and people how to deal with their emotions better. It's actually dangerous for people to not know how to deal with their emotions. So it's pretty important. It's happening in government. It's happening in sports. How do you deal with your feelings? How do you deal while you're losing? How do you be a team member? How do you push yourself when you're hurting, or when you're down, or when you're up against someone that's better than you? How do you do all this? It's a crucial part of the whole thing. I play racquetball all the time, and I have learned so much from playing because I can do things with my emotions that other people can't do because I practice this stuff, and I can push myself, and I can do things that I can add anger, not anger at them, but anger at just a level of anger that intensifies things and motivates me and fires up. right? It's a different feeling, and it's very cool. So you can do things that most people can't do if you can handle your emotions really well. Mental health, another one. This is something that I've been personally working in for like 30 years now. We do an intensive weekend workshop in how to deal with your emotions, and the healing that is possible, the adjustment that people can make about when they think that they're a bad person, or they have belief systems about how they fit into the world or not, or how lovable you are, or how powerful you are, or all kinds of beliefs that happen as a kid, and these feelings get stuck inside our body and they stay there until we do something to release them. So it's been phenomenal for mental health. So, and of course physical health and much more, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. So what it boils down to is some of the world's biggest social problems are related to EQ, or lack thereof. Unfortunately, it's mostly guys on a lot of these, but if you think about it, addictions, abuse, violence, divorce, suicide, abandonment, a lot of crime, a lot of mental health problems, even physical health, they're adjusting now to how people didn't deal with their emotions, even war, right? So I guess I'm running out of time, so I'm going to flip through these quickly. This is SEL, like I was talking about in school. They did these massive studies. Now that we've been doing it for a while, increased pro-social behaviors, decrease in antisocial behaviors, and actual increase in standardized test scores. 11% increase in test scores, which means your EQ can help your IQ. That's pretty cool. This is an ACE study. This is physical health. Kaiser did 175,000 people or something, was able to study them, and found that when bad stuff happened to you as a child, chances are you're going to have physical problems as an adult. Chances are very good. Look at these graphs. Wow, they're straight up direct correlation in physical health. Our thoughts determine our feelings. Remember this. Your thoughts determine your feelings. Nobody makes you angry. Your angry thoughts made you angry. Your thoughts made you angry. If you change your thoughts, which you can do, you can change your feelings, and both of those can change your behaviors. So accept that your feelings are what they are. Accept that you are in charge of what happens inside of you. Your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors are yours. And if you can take this one thing away from this and nothing else, remember that your thoughts and your feelings and your behaviors are yours, and you can do things with them. Nobody else can touch them. Nobody can make you feel bad about yourself without your permission. It's up to you. So emotional responsibility is a huge thing. Please take that with you. Feelings matter. Happiness is a choice. You can learn to choose wisely. And we can learn to have actions. Here's one of the, here's what's happening. This is kind of cool for success. Here's what people see, but here's what's happening underneath all that. And it's all going on inside of you. So we've got a bunch of resources that you can learn from, and you can do more things with your emotions. Here's a worksheet for how to process through when you were a little kid, things happened and you decided stuff, you felt stuff. Here comes the behaviors and how to adjust it back out of there. So, conclusion, our thoughts, I said that already. Get a clue, get a grip, get a life. I like that one. Happiness is a choice. Feelings aren't good or bad, they just are. In fact, I think that's what Dr. Downing, one of my mentors, said. It's a wonderful quote, but I think it's even better than that, is that they're a good thing, not a bad thing. So if you can change that one thing inside of you, that feelings matter and that they are a good thing, they're not something to be avoided, they're something to be listened to and appreciated and honored, and then let go if you don't like them. Here's a real quick thing on how EQ teaches emotional responsibility, and that can actually lead to world peace by taking personal responsibility, then social responsibility, and then it gets bigger, and we can lead to world peace. We do weekend workshop. If you can, real quick, you could scan this QR code. It'll tell you all kinds of things about the workshop that we do if you're interested. I was going to read that, but I'm not. There's a bunch of social media sites that look for emotional intelligence. Look for the Emotional Intelligence Network on Facebook and LinkedIn. 100,000 people in there, and there's some great information. all over the internet now on emotional intelligence. Look up emotional intelligence. It's a wonderful thing. I've done some other training videos on EQ. You can look on YouTube for those. This is the book that we use, Doc Downing's book on taking control of your life, how to dramatically increase your emotional intelligence. You do bit.ly/EQ book, and the upper lowercase doesn't matter in this one, but it's free if you want it. It's you set the price, so if you can set the price to 0 if you want to. So the big goal, and I'll sum it up on this one, is to learn EQ for you, because it can change your life, and then please share it with other people. Please let other people know that that their feelings are theirs, and they do matter, and you can do something with it. And most people don't know that, because we're not taught it, and you can. So please do. So this is the last of it, and this is my contact information, and there's my little guy, IQ plus EQ equals smiley face. So contact me if you want to, read some more about EQ if you want to, but please take your feelings more into account. Thank you.